My first book was Chang and Eng. It was about conjoined twins. I got this call from the BBC and they said, hey, will you talk about conjoined twins? And I said, yeah, I'm just a novelist. They said, that's all right. On one line was me, and then the other line was one of a set of conjoined twins, and her sister was just sitting there watching TV or whatever. And so at the end of the interview, the woman said, you know, your book is my favorite book. I've given it to all my friends. You really captured what it was like to be a conjoined twin. So that meant so much to me because I have no idea if I did it right or not. Philip Roth was the first one to show me that you could write about a life like mine and it could still be serious literature. Where is it? Portnoy's Complaint was the first book I read that made me want to be a writer. He was writing about Jewish families in suburbia in a funny way, and about masturbation and about relationships, kind of stuff that I knew about. I love David Foster Wallace. He wrote this piece where he spent 80 pages writing about what it's like being on a cruise ship. Supposedly a fun thing I'll never do again. Probably the best nonfiction that anyone's written in the last 15, 20 years. That's hilarious and sad and profound, and so that kind of devastates me. I think the problem is when you read something that good, you find yourself imitating it. And so I have to sort of read it and then put it aside, or else it'll influence me too much. I'm a complete slob about everything. And my wife laughs that I alphabetize my bookshelf because it's the only thing I'm anal about. I first alphabetized my library in an apartment that was so disgusting. It was like there was mounds of crap, like pizza boxes and clothes. I'd struggle for hours looking for a book because I just had piles of books. And I would say, where's that damn Milan Kundera book? And so I finally said, all right, one day I'm just going to do it. And so it was like an AA. It was like I reached bottom.
Is anyone else but you allowed to put books away?
Yeah, I'm not some total asshole. I don't think. People can put books away, but I do kind of like them to put away in alphabetical order. So I guess I'm only a little bit of an asshole about it. I'm not a major asshole. The bookshelf is kind of my domain. So even though some of my wife's books are here, I'm in charge of it, which kind of pisses her off sometimes. But I'll relegate some of her books to the nether regions, the alphabetized bottom part, which is for books I don't really care about. Once she's done with a book, she's done with it, so she doesn't really care. Once I'm done with the book, I'll go back to it. Most of the books I really like, I've probably read 4 or 5 times. Which 3 books would I have in my desert island? Tolstoy, because I think Tolstoy has sort of the best take on human relations, so I'd have probably Anna Karenina. But then I want someone who's really stylish, so maybe Nabokov's Lolita. And then maybe something from Saul Bellow, just because I really like him. Herzog. Under the B's, and here's Lolita under the N's, and here's Anna Karenina with the kind of actually crappy translation but cool cover from Oprah. If I was locked in my apartment, I probably would watch TV, to be honest with you. But if I had to read a book, I would read what I'm reading now, which is Laurie Moore's Like Life, her story collection. There's a book on my shelf that I'd be embarrassed for people to see unless they knew the story about it. In my literary alphabetized part, I have Judy Blume, because I met her and she signed it, but I think when people do look at my bookshelves, it seems odd that between like Martin Amis and Saul Bellow is Judy Blume. Here. Let's see, what does it say? Forever. For Darin, love, Judy Blume. So I thought the love made it kind of special. W. Here we go. Too tight. More Than Hurts You is my first book that's non-historical. I wanted it to be kind of a big book about ambitious things, but also be a page-turner. So it's about race and class and gender issues in America, because it's a black woman doctor arguing against the Jewish family. I was always interested in the relationship between blacks and Jews, which used to be so close. So that's kind of the big idea part, but I also wanted it to be a fun, or at least page-turning read. So it's about Munchausen by proxy, where a parent intentionally injures the child to get attention. And it's a really odd disease, but it's gotten more popular here and in the UK as reality TV has gotten more popular. And it only happens in rich countries like the US and the UK, because if you're starving in the middle of the third world, you don't have time to think, well, I'll poison my kid and get on TV. Philip Roth has a good quote. He says, the difference between being a professional writer and being an Olympic swimmer is that the Olympic swimmer doesn't think she's going to drown every time she tries to swim. So it's good to have copies of your books to look back at and say, I could do it at one point, I probably can do it again. I keep copies of my books, like the foreign editions, down in my basement. Sometimes when I'm feeling unconfident, I'll creep down there at 5 a.m. and say, oh, I can still write there are my books. So it's amazing to think that someone translated my stuff and that's what I'm looking at. This was kind of fun, I thought. It says Le Double Garçon, which I guess means the double twins or double brothers. I don't speak French. I've gotten better since I became a parent, but I'm kind of an idiot about everything else except for writing. The first time I had my kids alone, we didn't have the stroller, so I was like, I'll just take 2 strollers. And so I was trying to push 2 strollers down the street, and then each curb was like a Sophie's Choice because there's a truck coming. I was like, I gotta get one of them up. I don't know. I don't know what makes a good children's book versus a bad children's book, because there's some that are so simple. It's just like, here's a guy with a truck, and I'm driving down the street. Also, like the Goldilocks and the 3 Bears story, when you read it as a book to your kids, you realize what a terrible story it is. She comes in, she takes their food, and she leaves, and they're like, okay. I'm kind of excited about them being able to read my own stuff, which is kind of selfish, I guess, but I think it's going to be kind of fun to have them reading my books, because I guess that's a way to know certain things about me. And so they're there for them to read. Hi, I'm Darin Strauss, and this is How I Stack Up. I know nothing's stopping.